Lewis Jackson claims to have some groundbreaking research on XRP and Ripple that could determine whether or not XRP is embraced in the future. It truly depends on this one particular factor. So, let's play the video and I'll explain what I think is happening. Lewis is here. Do some research. I've found that for XRP to function in the new financial system, it must be classified as this one item. If this classification is incorrect, XRP's place in this new financial system may come to an end. Banks are using bank-issued currency to settle, and it presents a challenge for XRP since it will be pushed out if the private chain financial system and wholesale system opt to settle with bank money. What will happen if XRP is forced to operate in the public sphere after being forced out of the private one? That indicates, in my opinion, that XRP is now essentially the same as XLM. Whoa, what a shock. Whoa. All right. Okay, how do you feel about that, XLM fans? That was unaware that we were headed there. Okay, let's go on. It isn't accomplishing its intended goals while operating in the public domain, person to person. I hate to say it, but the banker's coin is what the XRP is designed to be. That system is meant to incorporate it. However, it's just XLM if it's not in that system. Therefore, what's the point if XRP is treated the same as XLM? For example, what is the purpose of XRP? The penny then fell. Ripple has a clear understanding of this issue and has done it before. Every single move that Ripple continues to make, when I think back on their past movements, has been made in an effort to achieve this one goal. So, to give you a quick overview, Ripple is the world's top blockchain infrastructure. They wouldn't be the biggest blockchain infrastructure firm in the world if they didn't employ the brightest minds, would they? They are all aware of their purpose and point of view here. Make XRP usable across all global financial markets and infrastructures to establish an internet of value. That's the objective. Since the beginning, RLUSD and XRP have been and will continue to dominate the planet. And when I learn more about the rules and the various appendices of these various documents, I see that they were well informed. They are skilled at what they do. They are truly skilled in their field. Since I've been going through those documents in depth, I'm attempting to convey that to you by telling you about them now. Come on. Therefore, it was evident to Ripple that XRP would always have difficulties attempting to integrate into this private wholesale banking system. They therefore required a Trojan horse. They required a means of accessing that system. In order for XRP to be at the center of everything, RLUSD, they essentially put their foot in the door here with Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD. All right. Additionally, if you think about RLUSD as the Trojan horse, XRP is inside of it. Nobody is truly aware that XRP is present. All of that is about the... All right, so to recap, RLUSD is based on both Ethereum and the XRP ledger. Since Ethereum already has a lot of liquidity, 90% of the USD is on it. Thus, we're hopeful that the settlement with RLUSD on the XRP side occurs as we develop G-Treasury and Ripple Prime, which was once a hidden road. Since XRP is the gas token of the XRP ledger, it is still required for any RLUSD transaction on the XRP side. Right now, the horse is all about RLUSD, because Ripple needs to have an asset that satisfies all requirements and is in compliance with the wholesale financial system's requirements for an asset in order to be able to take part in this wholesale payments world. For example, whether it complies with all of that, and naturally we have evidence that RLUSD does because it has already been approved in Dubai. Furthermore, they are merely proofs of concept that will allow Ripple to introduce RLUSD to the larger financial system and claim, hey, look, we're already accepted in Dubai. Therefore, let's just move this along. All right, swiftly. RLUSD is currently growing everywhere, including in Africa, Dubai, Japan, and Europe. Therefore, I would assume that you will continue to have many iterations of RLUSD. RL Great British Pounds, RL Euros, RL Yen, and whatever other currency is used in your nation will likely be available in some form over the course of the next few years, either directly from Ripple or through its partners. In the event that each bank uses its own tokens to settle these transactions, such as JP Morgan's deposit tokens or stablecoins that will eventually emerge from Japan or the UK, the Ripple stablecoin RLUSD will also be discussed as a compliant asset globally. You may be asking yourself, okay, but what about XRP? As if XRP has been somewhat excluded from the system. XRP is still present in the public domain despite the private system. Zone, such as what's happening. We know that XRP is an asset that you employ between two pieces that don't communicate with one another, so this is where things become really interesting. We've all made this mistake, therefore I want to attempt to warn everyone about it. There must be an asset in the middle that can enable that transfer to occur, but there's a huge difference that occurs here. It is imperative that we cease discussing XRP as a settlement asset, or as a currency. We get nothing from it. The closing of a deal is known as settlement. The euro is one currency, followed by the asset in between, and the recipient's desired currency. The settlement process begins as soon as the last money is received. The settlement occurs at that point. If you examine three distinct portions, you'll see that XRP isn't at the conclusion. What makes XRP the settlement token then? Since it facilitates settlement, isn't that right? The middle layer is it. It is the link that connects the two currencies. For this reason, settlement is used. You seem to be stretching with me by combining words here to support your arguments or story, which I suppose is true. It doesn't make any sense at all. That indicates to me that XRP has to be defined in a different way. XRP should not be defined as currency, in my opinion. In a moment, we will discuss why. Not as a conversion asset, not as a settlement asset, and not as a currency. Since RLUSD doesn't communicate with JP Morgan's coin, there's a specific technical term that we must use to describe XRP, but we will discuss that in a moment. RLUSD and USTD don't communicate. These are closed contexts, such as the private and wholesale, where the deposit token itself is not functional. There must be a conversion moment because the deposit token is ineffective for settlement. Therefore, a middle-tier technology that performs that conversion is required. An asset that settles is not what we're searching for. A currency that can run the entire planet is not what we're searching for. A conversion asset is required. Furthermore, XRP is inherently a component of the infrastructure because to its status as a conversion asset. Because XRP is subject to additional rules the moment you begin to consider it as money or a settlement asset. For this, there are new prerequisites. The definition of XRP and why it can't be a part of that wholesale system are currently the subject of intense regulatory dispute. The private system is unable to accommodate it. It must be in a public area outside. That is not what we want to occur. We would like XRP to participate in the private sphere from the public sphere. In this video, we will reveal important regulations and important sections of these documents. In the end, I'm still waiting for the docs if we say, we're like 5 minutes in. They're where? Give me the docs, please. Infrastructure is XRP. Banks don't give a damn about the tools you use. They treat it like a tool. If it works, that's all that matters. For XRP as infrastructure, what truly transpired must occur next. What must occur if we're discussing infrastructure being blessed by regulators, such as if it's to become a key service provider? Although there are 3 conditions, XRP might be regarded as a vital service provider and essentially run the entire system if it can meet them. Since many of you already adore him, I'm happy to see him back in good health and doing anything he wants to do. I'll see you next time. I believe he's beginning to create more XRP stuff.